Hello and welcome. I am Kantisha, General Manager for Content and Strategy at Stratton, and gives me immense pleasure in welcoming you all to this exclusive webinar on endpoint security, mitigation strategies against the evolving threat landscape. I welcome you on behalf of Dell Technologies, Microsoft, VMware, and Stratton. Ladies and gentlemen, on our journey to securing the endpoints, which are the most vulnerable components of our computing environment. And yet we've seen that most organizations actually let their controls take it. A recent study found that about 76% of organizations have increased their use of endpoint devices since the onset of COVID-19. To adapt to the shifting threat landscape, about 82% of IT security decision makers have had to reevaluate their existing cybersecurity policies to meet this growing demand for mobility. As endpoints grow increasingly complex, and this could be due to the policies around bring your own device work environments, or Internet of Things, or devices touching the network, the risks are indeed increasing. We've seen that post-COVID, cloud has taken a front stage. Obviously, this was the aim to reduce cost and increase the security aspects. As a part of the Vision 2023 Asia Pacific survey done by Strategy, here are the findings to key technology levers that organizations feel lead to sustained transformation. And as we see these numbers on our screen, we've also uncovered that for most organizations, the security triad consists of data encryption, endpoint security tools to fend off cyber threats, and of course, client and patch management to ensure applications are free of vulnerabilities. When the world went remote, this became more complicated. About 60% of organizations only have insight into 3/4 of their network devices. The remaining 25% is a blind spot, which makes real-time instant response kind of impossible. While endpoint security is complex, and this complexity is increasing the risk, of course, compromised end-user controls and the widening attack surface is to account for all of this. Here are a few numbers on your screen where organizations, as a part of the endpoint security survey, have responded to how they feel the key risks with respect to endpoint security stand. We've also uncovered that about 61% of organizations feel that more of the risks are people-centric. Ransomware, as you can see, takes the front seat with 39%. 50% of organizations feel that third-party software leads to an open door. 47% feel that cloud vulnerabilities, and 39% feel that mobile device-related vulnerabilities are adding to their endpoint security rules. And of course, 36% comes from social engineering. When we talk about all the different reasons why organizations feel that they are at risk, about 22% feel that malware-related issues, and 17% feel unauthorized access leads to endpoint security being compromised. While an endpoint security strategy is essential because every remote endpoint can be an entry point to an attack, and the number of endpoints is only increasing with the rapid pandemic-related shift to remote work, the risks posed by endpoint and their sensitive data are a challenge, and they're not going. So what organizations are looking at as mitigation strategies, the top steps that they would like to take against this risk, and how they look at managing it. Protecting against endpoint attacks definitely can be challenging because endpoints exist where humans and machines interact. Businesses struggle to protect their systems without interfering with the legitimate activities of their employees. And while technological solutions are highly effective, the chances of an employee succumbing to a social engineering attack can be mitigated. So what needs to be done? Organizations feel, and a high percentage, which is 94%, feel that a zero trust security framework can be implemented, and which is what they're doing to mitigate against these attacks. 87% feel that remote deployment of patches and updates is required, and about 83% are working on training their employees against social engineering attacks. We've seen that a lot of this can also be mitigated with the steps mentioned at the bottom of the screen, which is malware protection, cyber monitoring, of course, cloud user security and data backup policy, incident management, and of course, a kill switch policy. While organizations are building on a comprehensive strategy to defend against the risk that the widened attack surface presents to them, what they can actually do to be prepared and be resilient. The steps that organizations are obviously taking is to identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover from attacks. Through our conversations with our leaders from both the business and IT fraternity, we will discuss in detail how organizations are looking at identifying, protecting, detecting, and responding to attacks, and of course, recovering from there in the incident of an attack. So that's exactly how we're going to take forward the next part of the session. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we shall now move forward to the next segment, which is an interesting conversation with three eminent business and IT leaders who will be in conversation with me discussing what they feel are the key risk levers and, of course, what are their mitigation strategies against these. Let's all welcome, with a round of applause, Ms. Babita Bibu, CISO for Catholic Syrian Bank, Mr. Amrish Singh, CISO for Godrej and Boise, and Mr. Bhagwati Prasad Dubey, who is CISO for Axis Mutual Fund. Let's delve into the conversation with them now. Ladies and gentlemen, as informed, I have an eminent panel of experts with me, and we're going to discuss how endpoint security is becoming a priority for organizations and what are their strategies in deriving the right kind of endpoint security mechanisms. We're seeing that the complexity of safeguarding an organization's data assets has grown tremendously in the past few years. The cloud has been a game changer for business productivity, as has remote and hybrid work. With this, we've seen an increase in devices. This has not happened without cost. The transition from managing only on-prem infrastructure to encompassing the cloud has created a larger attack surface for adversaries with expanding consequences. And the payoff of these threat actors can be enormous. As a result, security threats continue to find new vulnerabilities to exploit, and organizations are, of course, more vulnerable, and the cost of getting it wrong can be devastating. On that note, I'd like to jump into my first question. And Babita, from you, I would like to ask, what are the imperatives of building and implementing a comprehensive cyber resilience strategy that can safeguard an organization from threats?
Thank you, Kanchi, for this wonderful question, and thank you for being calling me for this wonderful group discussion. And this is my thought, and we talk about cyber resilience, it is mainly how we recover from cyber attack, how fast an organization is able to recover from a cyber attack. So in that perspective, now we are in a state where we have the feel that we might get attacked. It is not like we will never get attacked. So we CISOs are in the preparation to accept that and to see that how fast business can be recovered, and even that in the way that business is not at all affected. So even if any attack has happened, the prime business is carried out without any problem. So that is what ultimately cyber resilience is for. And definitely the two main pillars for cyber resilience will be the detection, because first we have to detect how far we are able to detect it immediately. And the second is the recovery phase, how far we recover the business. And here there are some more factors which will be counting, which will be the prime business. we have to figure out which is our prime business and how far we are able to ensure that we can continue the business, so that we have a proper BCP plan, business continuity plan with us. If something goes wrong, how we are going to take over with the next plan A, plan B. And that is how normally we prepare ourselves for a cyber resilience.
Brilliant, Babita. And while we're all on that journey of preparing ourselves for safeguarding and building the right kind of cyber resilience strategy, Amrish, what does it look at your end?
Yeah, so I think I had what Babita said. And first of all, thanks for having me here. Uh, See, as Babita said, things will go wrong. I may go wrong, right? It depends upon how well you are prepared. And that's why I keep talking about keep your basics strong, people, process, and technology. Okay. And look at the NIST cybersecurity framework where we talk about every time: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Okay. If you are able to, it's important to understand where your asset, because as you rightly said, threat landscape is changing. Post-pandemic, any device from anywhere, people want to access the applications, right? That is where the people are talking about zero trust coming into play. Once you identify the assets, probably you should be able to identify what are the threats related to those assets. And then you are able to protect them, those assets from those respective threats. If you're not able to protect, then you should be able to detect and respond and recover. Okay. That's where when we're implementing any technology, map this out, whether this technology is going to detect, respond, recover, or protect, which category it belongs to. When you map it out, probably you will realize that there are a lot of, traditionally, we have been giving a lot of emphasis on protection. And when protection is to fail, people used to take a lot of time to recover back because there was no serious thought to it. And I think last 3-4 years, a lot of thought has gone into respond and recover. And even if we recover, people, that's why this last 10 years, EDR, XDR, etc. has come into play, because they're helping you in recovery process, detecting, recovering, and protection, right? And it is important, very important to have a very resilient cyber strategy in place. And then you have incident response in place. If you have this incident response plan well thought through, and then you are doing a cyber drill according to your plan, so that you know, okay, which are the threat actors, which are the actors who are supposed to do, who will do what action at when the crisis happens, because crisis will happen. It's a matter of time when, and we should learn from others' mistake, each other mistake, rather than waiting for okay, nothing will go wrong and everything will be fine. That key takeaways: look at your basics, focus on people, process, and technology, and look at the NIST cybersecurity framework, all 5 pillars, rather than the only 2 or 3 pillars. Thank you.
Totally agree. Absolutely, Amrish. Bhagwati, from you, I would like to pose the next question. To remain viable in a competitive market, enterprises must form organization-wide strategies and make the right kind of infrastructure investments that support their cyber resilience initiatives. Uh, what is your take on this, and how do you think can the right kind of investments be made in this direction?
Yeah, like right kind of investment is really required to bring up your cyber resilience. It's like, as earlier speakers have explained, like previously it was like more of a defensive approach. We were in a protection mode, and we were like, what further action has to be done to protection. But right now, I can say a strategy should be more of a, not of a defensive, but you should try to test yourself. More of a, you should not wait for a hacker to hack you. You should know how to hack yourself with a investment, right investment. You can go ahead of a hacker so that you can bring a cyber resilience. Like, we have implemented n number of things, but have you tested it? For testing them, you have to put an investment over that. And testing not like a religious check mark kind of a thing. It should be completely with perspective to a hacker, like how he is going to test you, your security parameters. So you have to test in that fashion. So it requires really a good investment and a strategic decision out there, and open to face the what is going to come as an outcome of it.
Totally agree. So while we're talking about these investments and thinking, putting on the hacker's hat and thinking about it, We're seeing that today organizations are also operating in multiple environments. This is, of course, a resultant of the increasing transition to remote work. And this has put tremendous stress on IT admins. Device proliferation has increased the overall endpoint security risk. And of course, the attack surface has kind of, enlarged. Um, so, Amrish, how do you see organizations, forming the right kind of tracking and securing strategies that can help them, especially in a hybrid environment?
Yeah. So I think that you should have a, as I said, right cybersecurity strategy from the endpoint server and cloud. Okay, I'll leave aside the cloud for now. You look at the endpoint. I look at the how breaches are happening. Okay, the 90% of percent of the breaches are happening via the phishing emails. Okay, and phishing email will land into the one of the corporate devices, right? And if you do not have right security strategy around it, okay, one is the how to prevent the phishing emails. Do you have email ATP? If you have the email ATP, what kind of email ATP solution you have? What are the capability? Are you using those capabilities? Okay. You cannot rely on the traditional email service providers by default email ATP solution, whatever they provide, because that's not enough. Okay. A bunch of other ATP solutions are there. Second thing, if you assume that the ATP solution, phishing email has bypassed that ATP solution, now that has landed into the user's inbox. Okay. Now, in that case, suppose the user clicks on that link and he gets ransomware. Okay. Now, what kind of strategy you have? How you will detect? Early detection is the game. Okay. Do you have the EDR? Okay. Do you have the SOC who is monitoring those EDR logs? Okay. So one is the protection strategy, one is detection strategy, and respond and recover. Okay, holistic view. If you look at the only endpoint, okay, we have been doing a lot of technology deployment on endpoint. Look at the from the hardening perspective, look at the from the data exfiltration perspective, encrypting the hard disk drive. Okay, and traditionally what I have seen is suppose machines are connecting via VPN. Okay, a lot of organizations allow external machines connect via VPN to their infrastructure. Okay, we must understand that once any machine via client joins your infrastructure via VPN, it becomes literally part of your network. So what kind of security measures you have? You are looking at, okay, what are the endpoints are connecting to your infrastructure? That assessment holistic view has to be there. And if you know that which are the assets are connected to your network, then you need to have a right strategy to uh, protect those assets from the infection or attack. Or if you're not able to protect, in case, then you should have detect and respond recover mechanism. And that is how probably we talked about defense in depth, right? One protection phase that you have layered approach, one will kick in so that you are able to catch, right? And then you have a 24/7 SOC who is monitoring and how you, it's also very important to understand and to gauge what is the effectiveness of your SOC. Okay, that is very important. So that's why I said cyber drill, unalerted exercises, etc. is very important. Do bridge and attack simulation to understand how your SOC efficient is, how they are running. Okay, these are my thoughts.
Thank you, Amrish. Babita, your take on this?
See, when we talk about the hybrid environment and endpoints, visibility is a main concern we have. How far we are able to identify the assets, because when it comes to security, visibility is the primary thing. Without visibility, we cannot protect or even detect the things. So, what is the asset which is connected to our network? That knowledge should be there, or we should know. And if there is always there's a pain point when it comes to endpoint, because banks like us, which have lot many branches and a lot of endpoints, and we don't know the security posture of the endpoints. How far we are able to identify that it is getting all the endpoints is getting patched correctly, the EDR is installed. So see, we might be having solutions. Are we sure that these solutions are working in the way it need to be? That's what Abrish was telling regarding the testing of participating in the cyber drill and see the SORA and SOC is working properly. So all those and the way we are configuring the things. And when it comes to solutions, it's always a cost making center for the organization. So it's not required that we have so many solutions with us, but whichever solution we deploy, we should ensure that that is working in the right way it should be. So the visibility of the asset, that is the primary concern we have right now when it comes to endpoint security and the patching of the systems. When the number of system or count of systems are humongous, and every year Microsoft come with a new version, and it has its own vulnerability, how far we are able to patch it on time. And the hardest part is, if we go into the attacks which has happened so far, it is not due to a new vulnerability or a 0-day kind of thing. It is the exploitation of the existing vulnerability in the system. And we might be knowing that the system is having vulnerability, but we may not be having the time to patch it, or due to some application dependencies, the IT team may not be able to fix that. In such scenario, security professionals should have the visibility of that and have to come up with a mitigation plan or additional security measures. Sometimes we have to put it in a separate segment or something. Some additional security measures or security solutions need to be implemented to ensure that such kind of vulnerabilities, we normally say that virtual patching, there are solutions which are having virtual patching. So whether we are deploying it, we are configuring in the right way. In the SOC itself, we have to put additional security rules which might highlight on the way that has been used. Then the privilege escalation. That is another concern which normally happens with the endpoints, especially in the cloud-based solutions, where public people who are using public cloud. There is the hardest part is that the keys of the management console is stored in the local system itself. So if someone gets that and get the privilege of privilege escalation, that is a big concern. Concentration of workload in the cloud, that is another concern, because the targeted kind of attack, supply chain kind of attack which is happening, will be targeting on these things. So as you rightly mentioned, in the hybrid environment, I don't know what kind of machines are in the cloud or SaaS solution which I am going to connect to. So all these are some of the pain areas where we have to work together to get a solution.
I couldn't agree more on that. And while we're working on solutions, we've seen that generally there is a cyber resilience divide. While some organizations are prepared to respond to attacks, most actually cannot meet the minimum level of readiness required to respond. What are some of the to-dos in creating an optimal infrastructure that can actually help you recover from destructive cyber attacks? Babda, your take on this.
See, when it comes to cyber attack, the first thing I will say, we should have a proper backup, and that too a offline backup. That is the old technology and the new technology which is successful. We talk about lot many new things which has come, but ultimately we say that we need a backup, proper tested backup. That is the word I would like to use. Proper tested backup which is offline, not connected to the current production systems. So this is the primary thing which is required now. Then comes the other methodologies or solutions which we can work on to recover the system. And if you are having a strong EDR solution at the endpoint, it has, with the AI and user behavioral kind of analysis technology inbuilt in it, it has the, if there is a ransom kind of attack or something is happening, the solution itself can recognize the pattern, the behavior of the system, and contain it, or if the keys are available, they can even then restore it. So that kind of solutions are available in the market. Then the response that we have to, I always give importance to the social building a cybersecurity culture in the organization, because if something goes wrong, the employees or the people who are using the system are the one who can identify it's the initial phase itself, and how fast they are going to report to the security or IT team. And once they report it, then only our work starts. So the speed of reporting the incident is one of the major factor we have to consider when we go for a recovery procedure. Once we identify that, then immediately our incident response plan comes into the existence, wherein we might be first isolating the machines, and all those sort of things will come into existence, and we will work on it. So, and all this AI plays a big role here, because correlation rules is what works in such scenario where a particular machine is behaving in a different way. Traffic is not supposed to come from that machine, and it is trying to communicate with another machine, which is normally doesn't happen in the last 10 days, and suddenly that started sending a communication to the other machine. And that kind of assessment, or our solution should be capable enough to correlate the incidents and give up alert that there's something wrong is going on, which will pitch in our attention to that, and we'll be able to detect it at a faster pace. So these are some of the solutions, and definitely we have to practice red team exercise, tabletop exercise. So and who all are, have to take the role as a role play itself. We have to conduct it so that if something goes wrong, there won't be any time wasted. And we have to figure out who will be talking to the media. Up to that level, we should have a clear cut plan of idea how we are going to address that. So these are the some of the things which we can practice in our organization.
Bhagwati, I'd like to come to you with the same question. What are some of the recovery measures that you would put into place to recover from disruptive cyber attacks?
For recovery measures, like as already explained, like we should have a backup of backup and some offline backup, as the panel has rightly said. Like we should have a backup which we have tested out, and we should be placing those backup in a such a way that those are not online. Considering the current cases of ransomware attacks, where online backups are also getting encrypted, so we should also have some adopted some offline backup strategy as well as those offline backups are also should be like we can connect them online, and at the least RTO and RPO we can recover our and come back with systems up and running. So that's what the strategy we should look at. And instead of taking a day backup, I can say we can reduce the frequency, and we can have a like within a day 2-3 times a backup, so that we can have a good strategy of recovering the data. Instead of losing an entire day or a month's data, we can have as frequently as we can do. That strategy we have to adopt, so that we lose at least a minimum amount of time period of a data that we have. Considering there are like lot many hybrid models are there for the backup, I can say. As a strategic view, we can think of, because backup is something which stores space, and it's a strategically cost also. To minimize that, right now in a cloud environment, you get a number of variants of cloud storage, where you can even store a data for a long period with the cheapest cost, as well as offline also. So we have to think strategically while storing such data, because they are just going to be part of your storage, and will be retrieved in case of a emergency only. So we have to wisely think on it, and figure out how we can do it.
Brilliant. Amrish, your take on this?
I think already previous peers have already spoken, but I'll just summarize. I think regular testing of the backup is important. Having an operational SOC is one of the basic element. Having a EDR which meets your requirement as per your threat landscape. So you might have a various setup like cloud, on-prem, OT setup, IoT setup, etc. is important. IR and regular cyber drills are one of the key criteria. And foremost important is top management support to the cybersecurity program, which will help drive entire cybersecurity strategy in the organization. Yeah.
Brilliant. So I do have a view on the clock, and this is going to be my final question to all three of you. I would like each one of you to actually share your opinion on this. Moving forward into the next year, as we go forward, we're seeing that a lot of CISOs are under more pressure to consolidate tech stacks. This to improve visibility and control across all endpoints. What are some of the essential features that you would expect from a solution or a partner that will help you define your endpoint security posture? Amrish.
Yeah, so it's very important because I'm a great promoter of we should leverage what we invested for. That's why I think last 4 5 years we might be seeing the security engineering. Okay, what these guys do, security engineers, is they look at the every control what we have deployed so far, look at the efficacy and efficiency of those controls. Take an example. I give a simple example. Suppose you have ADS solution, it can do 10 things. Are you using those 10 things, or using only 8 or 9? And if you're not, why not? And then that's where you'll be able to gauge whether you are able to leverage what we invested so far to the 100% or not. First thing. Uh, uh, Second thing is, you have the right roadmap. You look at the consolidation of a technology, because take example of you're deploying a DLP solution, right? If you have the roadmap of CASB, web proxy, etc., do you know that whether whatever technology you are choosing, it supports that or not? So you need to look at the long term, what you are trying to achieve, and what you are doing today, whether that is going to complement what you are trying to achieve in long term or not. If you think in silos, probably you'll get into trouble, because you'll have too many technology to manage, and there will be a lot of integration issue. They will not be talking to each other, and you will be running some show probably you'll not be able to manage.
Thank you.
So yeah, key takeaways, what I've tried to say is, look at what we invested so far, look at the long-term roadmap, and look at some strategy like zero trust strategy you're trying to achieve. So look at what you're doing today, how you are going to, how this step or technology or process is going to help you complement that zero trust strategy which you are building down the line, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 4 years, because every organization is on their different cybersecurity journey and maturity based on their own ecosystem, own budget, priority, etc. Yeah.
Understood. Babita, your take on this?
Yeah, see, when we talk about the security aspects, okay, what we look at our endpoints now, endpoints are really becoming very costly, because we have to deploy multiple solution in our endpoints, and we have to get separate license every time, have to renew the so all these things have raised certain questions at the board level also, or the investments which we are making at the endpoint level. We have to deploy DLP classification, EDR, antivirus, so what not. So this is the way things are moving on, but still attacks are happening, so that's a different part of the story. And so now people are moving into VDI concept, wherein it will be everything will be in the central server, and only instances will be accessed by the people, and we have to concentrate only on one server more, and all the security measures, everything can have to be deployed, and the logs need to be verified. So that is the way now things are moving on, and that is what I see in the next down the line, next 5 years. Only concern with the VDI is how far we are able to connectivity, how far it is we are able to provide the connectivity, 100% connectivity, because banks like us have remote branches. So whether that is possible from the remote location to connect to these VDI solutions and all, these are lot of, see, technology is evolving every day, new based on our problems. There will be some new solutions coming in, but I always have a feel that every lock has a key. So whatever solutions we come up with, there will be a counter solution, or the fraudsters who are much more dedicated in finding a loopholes in the system will be coming behind us too. Then, and the expertise of people like us is a cat and mouse game. How far we are able to make them run more. So how can we raise our security posture by adopting to various technologies, multi-layer architecture, zero trust, micro-segmentation. So there are a lot of things which are being adopted. So now I see more of a concentration from endpoints to a central server, because endpoints are becoming a big headache. So that is what I feel.
Totally agree with you on that. Bhagwati, your thoughts on this? What would define a right kind of security posture at the endpoints to you?
For endpoints, like it's more of a visibility. What I've seen, like at the endpoint area, we lack on a visibility, we lack on automation. And when we have to take an action on an endpoint, when we find like there is some lateral movement, it takes time, and by that, the small factor of time that we lag behind is the major resultant of attack. So we as rightly pointed out by the panelists, like we have a tool, but what features have we enabled? We have next generations firewall, we have next generations switch, router, and monitoring devices. But that next generation technology, are we using it? Are we using it if small antivirus is detected in a system? Is the system is quarantined automatically? Are you only depending on an engineer to go and disconnect the system? So that's it. That is what is required. And the visibility should also come at the same point in time at the central knock. Like one system is being identified as a critical, and automated action has been triggered. So it is the current world is AI ML. All is going to be artificial intelligence, machine learning. What is going to happen? People have designed a more robust attack framework where it is all automated action that has been taken. So we also have to adopt many of the automations where we can take immediate action. If these immediate actions are not being taken at the endpoint level, it is quite hard to stop them, because current histories is what is we can come to know. Like current attacks are at the endpoint. They are not at the central level. Basically, they come from the endpoint. Phishing attempts are highest on the numbers. So even though if you have a ATP solution, phishing controls, but what happens after once person has clicked it? So what measures have you seen, like unusual behavior? The person has never being a attacker's behavior is different, and a normal working employee's behavior is different. You can easily get that. So if you have implemented a next generation automation technology properly, you can easily get that first initial click of a person, and you can block it. So that's what I'll recommend. So enable all the automation what is possible, very much possible and acceptable by the organization. Take the visibility of each and every asset. I will not only say for endpoint, but for every asset that you see, and you should be able to take action immediately.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody. That's as much as what we have time for. Thank you for taking us through this wonderful conversation where we've discussed how we can detect, protect, respond, and recover from attacks. And with that, we will now move forward to the next session. That was a brilliant conversation that we had, ladies and gentlemen, with Mamta BP, CISO for Catholic Syrian Bank, Amrish Singh, CISO for Godrej and Boise, and Bhagwati Prasad Dubey, CISO for Axis Mutual Fund. Thank you very much, three of you, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right, everybody, we've heard this interesting discussion in the previous segment, and we're up with the next one, where we're going to talk about how we formulate the mitigation strategies against the evolving threat landscape. I have with me Kiran Kumar K, who's the outside product specialist India for APJ Cloud Software and Security at Dell Technologies. Thank you, Kiran, for joining us today.
Hey, thank you, Kanchi.
Also on the conversation, we're joined by Rohit Manotra, who's the regional sales leader, VMware Security Business Unit, Carbon Black. Welcome, Rohit.
Thanks, Kanchi. Thank you so much.
And we're also joined by Saji Kumar, who is the Director, M&A Alliances at Microsoft.
Hello, Kanchi. Thank you for inviting me. Pleasure to be here today.
Thank you very much, Saji. Well, I look forward to a very interesting discussion with all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, as we've discussed, the number of end users who are working remotely and on the go has increased exponentially. With breaches now happening at both the hardware and firmware levels, and we've also seen that software levels are impacted, we need intelligent solutions that prevent, detect, and respond to threats wherever they occur. Hence, organizations have outlined the need to prevent, detect, and remediate attacks, encrypt sensitive information and protect data, and of course, allow access to devices securely from anywhere. And that's exactly what we're going to outline through this discussion. I'm going to dive right into my first question, and this one is to you, Sam. Can you walk us through how organizations build and implement a comprehensive endpoint security strategy that safeguards them against all those threats?
Yeah, thanks, Kanchi. Very, very relevant question in today's world, right? The so-called new normal, what we call is. Because post-pandemic, the digital transformation has got triggered at a very, very blistering speed, if you look at, right? Ideally, something which should have happened in a matter of 10 years happened in 10 months. That's how we all look at it, right? Because today the organizations globally, I mean, as well as in India, are adopting hybrid at a much faster pace than previously we all believed it could have been, right? So in a hybrid workplace is no more a luxury, but a necessity in today's modern business world. Anybody who want to grow the business. So how Microsoft looks at it, we believe in enabling a zero trust security model that allows a complete, secure, comprehensive control over access to information, applications, and also the network resources when you access it from anywhere, right? That's how we say it in a single word, enabling a zero trust security model. While we talk about all these things, it also brings in a lot of new challenges as well as for the organizations, be it a larger enterprise or even a small business house, right? One is how do we empower the IT team so that they can easily implement the hybrid workplace in their respective organizations and workplaces. The most important parameter is the security, right? How does organization ensure control and access over the information applications that are shared over the internet to employees who may work from different locations using different devices and different form factors, right? So it's very important for the business owners to protect their organization's interest, because data is something which is very critical. Data is the fuel for the growth of any organization today. And just on a statistics data point, we have seen the increase in the cyber security threats going up specifically in India by about 400%. There are so many supporting data, research data available, but that's what I said. This also brings in a lot of new challenges. So it's very important to look at all these, security being one of the prime importance, and to provide a very seamless experience without losing focus on productivity. That's why we strongly recommend using the right devices, the right platform, which brings in zero trust security model.
That's brilliant, Saji, and I couldn't agree more. In fact, in the survey that we've done just as a precursor to this event and outlined during the keynote of this particular discussion, 94% of the responders think that endpoint security can be enabled using zero trust networks. So that's a big, mitigation strategy that organizations are looking forward to.
Absolutely.
From there on, Kiran, I'd like to come to you. As outlined by Saji, today many organizations are operating across multiple environments, and we're seeing an increase in transition to remote work. That has given rise to device proliferation. IT teams and admin teams are actually pressed, to put all this together. And while we're talking about this from the security point of view, this transition has greatly increased the attack vectors. So could you walk us through how at a given time, you can probably track and secure any of these devices? And what about those off your corporate network? And I'd also like to add one point. How do you ensure that a device stays within the authorized geographic boundary while you're trying to administer all the to-dos for endpoint security?
So that's a valid, points you raised, Kanchi. Organizations are pretty much worried, about their data or the devices which are off network. I'll take this as a two questions. Address to your first question, about of your corporate network. So we require an internet connection of any kind to deliver accurate geolocation. This does not need to be, on the network and could be a local coffee shop or mobile tethering, for example. We use the mechanism. What we use here is Google Wi-Fi positioning or GPS and Windows location API, which actually helps to track the device up to an accuracy of 10 meters as the most accurate, and then worked on a list of other less accurate available technologies. So that's how the technology works, and that's what we use. And off the network, you would see the last known locality, the last known location or username, and last known security posture, that is health of encryption or antivirus, asset management apps, VPN, and so on. You can also set an offline freeze where after a set of period of time, the device is offline, which is 4 to 90 days, for example. The device would freeze even if the user factory resets, changing the operating system, or hard drive replaces the hard drive. Still, the software survive and present the freeze over and over again once fully installed. Coming to your second question, geographic boundary. It actually track the devices so granular, like, even it is a office or a building or to that matter, an apartment or a state or district, country. So the tracking level is so granular. We can't control the device leaving geolocation. However, we can set very granular geofences with alerting when a device, as I mentioned, be it a flat, house, office perimeter, or a place, say for example, Bangalore city, or you can or you can move it to a state, Karnataka or India. So it could be a small and office location, as I mentioned. Possibly embark countries' activities was on our unexpected locations, as you're aware. This will give you the ability to look into device location, username, and security posture to begin your next steps. That is, would you like to freeze or crypto wipe the device as per your organization protocol? Either if you want to freeze the device, you can set a policy, customized policy stating that, if the end user is not coming network or is not coming online for a certain period of time, as I mentioned, 4 to 90 days, you can freeze the device. You can set a policy, customized policy stating that you can freeze the device. Then that device is no use for the end user. It's when the moment he even tried to enter the credential, it is not possible. They have to take an OTP from the IT admin. That's when he can access the system. So these kind of measures we can take, and we can uh, avoid or stop, control this leakage or the damage.
Brilliant. While there are mitigation strategies that exist and to the granular level, we're seeing, and I'd like to bring this question to you, Rohit, with your permission. We're seeing that there is a cyber resilience divide. While some organizations are prepared to respond to attacks, there are some that even do not have the minimum level of readiness that is required to respond. How do you think can organizations create secure infrastructure that actually optimizes cyber resilience to ensure recovery from disruptive cyber attacks?
I think that's a great question, Kanchi. And honestly, on the path of transformation digitally, which most organizations have embarked upon, because to stay competitive in this world, ever increasing growth which is happening, organizations have to transform themselves. And once they are on this path of digitally transforming, cyber becomes a very key integral part from a risk perspective. So honestly, organizations understand various kinds of risks which are there, when they embark on this journey of growth. But yes, cyber plays one of the key roles from a risk perspective on the growth journey. So when you talk about cyber and when you talk about the overall architect around, how do you take a point where cyber resilience becomes a very key integral part of an organization's strategy? It's when we say cyber resilience, we're basically talking about how quickly can an organization react to an attack when they are under a seizure kind of a situation. So because this got direct impact on business, it's got direct impact with regards to getting an organization back on its feet. I think fundamental to this is starting off with a plan, or let's say adhere to certain standards. So like Sajid talked about zero trust, I think, which is very critical. And unless you don't have a process, it becomes difficult to put in tools and start off a journey around cyber resilience. So having adherence to zero trust or having adherence to NIST framework, is probably the starting point where you know what your controls are. We really talk about things like having fundamental, let's say, risk mitigation plans, having a risk assessment or a vulnerability assessment program. That is, I think, fundamental to any organization. We need to know what vulnerabilities are there in your environment and put a patch management process in place, saying, okay, patching your organizations, so as to kind of take care of the vulnerabilities. Second probably would be, how do you reduce the attack surface? I would really look at strategies around application whitelisting, trusting applications which are important from a business standpoint to run in an environment. That is something which is very critical, so that only trusted applications run. You harden your systems so that only trusted application hardened systems are running in your environment. And most important, also have a plan around detect and response to threats. So what if there is an attack which has inevitably happened in your environment? How do you really respond to that? So most organizations, and as you rightly said, there could be in various phases, in this journey. Security is all about a journey. We can't say, no, we are secure. So what happens is that either you have your security outsourced to, let's say, an MDR player, or managed detection and response player, who basically helps you in these crisis situations. So I would really say that putting together a roadmap around how do you adhere to various strategies is something which is very critical in responding to threats and making sure organizations can get out of a situation of cyber resilience.
Brilliant. And while we're all, developing that strategy where we talk about how we, detect the attacks, defend from the attacks, create a response to the attacks, and of course, in the end, the right kind of recovery models. So that's a very nicely laid down, articulated answer. Thank you very much, Rohit. While touching upon the recovery element, and Kiran, I'd like to bring this to you. Organizations work on different recovery models. I'd like to touch upon a very basic factor there. How do you find a lost or a stolen device?
Well, Kanchi, it's as I mentioned in our previous point, it's just technology. What we use is Google Wi-Fi positioning, GPS, and Windows Location API. The accuracy is about 10 meters. 10 meters is like it's just you can see with your naked eye. That's how this is how the technology helps the tracking the device. If you feel a user can select device missing, this means the next time the device is seen online. Okay, online email alerts can be sent to the email alias of choosing. This again gives you the option to look into device location, as I mentioned, username, and a security posture to begin your next steps. Like if you think that it's now a threat to the organization, there is an important data within the device. You would like to either you can freeze the device or cryptovize the device with NIST certificate of data sanitization. If you have reported the device as stolen and have a crime reference number, you can enter this into Absolute Console. And we have a specialist team of ex-law enforcement who then work with local law enforcement globally to retrieve the device on your behalf. This is only available with our resilience licensed hire. So it will be easy for the organization. It's a peace of mind for them, where they can stop the the leakage and we can control the damage here. That's how they can take the precautions as per their organization protocol.
Brilliant. Well, on our journey to keep endpoints secure from anywhere, and the very basic that we talk about is built on security. And I'd like to come to you, Saji, with this question. Since the launch of Windows 11, Microsoft has always spoken about security being one of its prominent features. Can you please elaborate?
Absolutely, Kanchi. I think if I take a step back, right, if you look at the previous version of Windows, which is Windows 10, we spoke about the thrust on productivity and why productivity is important for any customer, right? So while we continue to build on the productivity with the constant threat of cybersecurity attacks, Microsoft clearly understands the need to ensure security as one of the prominent features in our latest platform, which is Windows 11, right? So like I said, last year we have seen a huge jump in the security threats, globally as well as in the country. So that's why, we see that, security has to be the one of the most important parameter. That's why Windows 11 is directly linked to security when we speak a lot about security as one of the prominent features of Windows 11, right? So what we do is multi-layer security. So we call it the chip to cloud security, which means the security is not only ensured at the software or the OS level, but it's also at the hardware, the application level up to the cloud level, right? Because in Windows 11 devices, the hardware and software security work together to help keep the user's data secure, right? That's why we ensure that, or we recommend customers to use devices which has a TPM 2.0 when you're upgrading to a Windows 11 platform, right? This ensures that it is not only at the software level but also at the hardware level. At the start of the application, the your data is secured, right? Simple things like Windows Defender, which is integrated as a part of the Windows 11, which is like one of the most strongest antivirus available in today's market. It protects the OS against any unauthorized access to any critical data. And other features like I can keep on talking, but to highlight one or two features like the Windows Hello or the Microsoft Authenticator, which gives you multiple methods of password security. It can be a biometric, it can be a face recognition. So it extends security to various levels. Like Rohit said, security has to be a journey. It's a never-ending journey. You need to keep evolving. That's why we say that complete protection from day one with the Windows 11 as a platform. It is up to date, latest and up to date in terms of protecting or fighting against any of the new phishing or ransomware attacks, etc. That's why we call Windows 11 as the most secure Windows which has been ever built by Microsoft.
Thank you, Saji, for walking us through that. And while we are speaking of that, Rohit, I want to come to you with the final question for this conversation, because I have a view on the clock and it's almost time's up for this one. So could you quickly walk us through a recent deployment for endpoint security solution portfolio?
Yeah, thanks, Kanchi. I think there are a lot of examples on organizations embarking on the journey, as I rightly said, in terms of deploying an endpoint solution. I personally believe, and a lot of organizations also believe, the fact that you need to have multiple controls in place when protecting your endpoint. And I think fundamentally, to start with, I'll take up an example. While I'm not taking names here because of NDA reasons, but a small mid-sized organizations, because those are the ones which are more susceptible to attacks because of various reasons. So fundamentally, to start with, I'll talk about one of the organizations who started off on their journey, and this was about 24 months back, saying, okay, we want to have a very resilient cybersecurity program. It had the blessings of the senior management and the board of directors as well, saying the fact that we need to have a very robust cyber program in place. The fundamental first thing on a cyber journey is cyber awareness. We need to make employees of an organization aware they have to be party to the overall process of cyber resilience. Because it starts with there. You can put in as many controls tools, but human beings, we are the weakest link in the overall cyber journey for that matter. Second, we need to have a robust program around, and they embarked on a very robust assessment program around risk, which started with vulnerability assessment. And that's step 2. Step 3, have a very clear whitelisting solution, so as to decrease your attack surface. That's something which they have embarked upon and put a solution in place. Finally, they went ahead and did a patching exercise as well, saying, okay, and honestly, they did a risk-based patching, seeing what is more risky for them, patch that, because honestly, there is so much of vulnerabilities coming through. Not all can be patched at the same point of time. So it's a risk-based approach. So that's where it starts off. Try and see what is important and then patch that. Finally, have a SOC in place, a security operations center, wherein any new threats which come through, it could be monitored in a SOC. So I think they've laid this down, the 4 controls. And then over the period of the last, I would say 18 to 24 months, they have put each control and seen the efficacy of that control. Because having a control is easy, but basically looking at what is the efficacy, what's the value you're getting from it, and that really imbibes a lot of confidence with senior management to put in more dollars. Because it's a continuous process. You have to do this over months and years, to have a very resilient cyber program. So I think this is an example of how a mid-sized organization put in various controls and had a very resilient cyber program.
That's brilliant. And actually, like you've outlined, that a comprehensive cyber resilience plan to defend against all kind of attacks is an organization-wide impact. It cannot happen just at one element or within one department. So thank you for walking us through that. And that's as much as what we have time for. This has been a brilliant conversation with all 3 of you gentlemen. Thank you for outlining how organizations can develop strategies to implement comprehensive endpoint security measures, stay free from all kinds of cyber attacks, safeguard, and respond quickly. And of course, while they're doing that, protect data on device and in the cloud. That really needs to be done. So thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you, Kanchi, for giving us the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that today's webinar on endpoint security, mitigation strategies against the evolving threat landscape has been fruitful and engaging for all of you. I thank you for joining us today on behalf of Dell Technologies, Microsoft, and VMware. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll just request you for 2 more minutes of your valuable time and help us with filling the feedback form. Your feedback is invaluable to us as this helps us build better conferences for you. So do help us with all your suggestions and recommendations that you have. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap and we'd like to sign off. We look forward to welcoming you at our upcoming webinars and conferences. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.